Welcome to GPS for your life. By using your date, time, and town of birth, and systems like human design, gene keys, and astrology, Ashley Goner and Jeannie Winters will show you how to remember what you wanted to experience in this lifetime to finally find clarity, purpose, and alignment in your life. Join them now for the next episode.
So please welcome back to this amazing show, GPS for Your Life, with Jeannie Winters and myself, Ashley Goner. And today we get to talk about human design, but Jeannie is so well-rounded in these three systems, the human design, the gene keys, and astrology, and the way she puts it together. And she wants to start off by explaining each one. And I feel like what I've learned from you, Jeannie, on each the gene keys and the astrology, and then obviously human design, when they are interplayed like you do, it makes it even more powerful and so much more has more clarity in why we are who we are.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to start with a little more simple of an analogy, at least I'm hoping it is. Let me share my screen. Okay, so we're going to just call her Jane. So Jane, imagine Jane is anybody, and you, me, anybody. If you took a picture of Jane, excuse me, with a camera, you would see normal vision, right? We would call this your astrological natal chart. It's everything you see on the outside of the person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the same person, right? This is what the chart would look like. The same person, if you're looking at them through infrared vision, that would be what we call human design. So you can see different aspects. You can see their aura. You can see, maybe some damage to the skin. This is just an analogy. But just to give you an idea, oops, sorry, I went backwards. And that's what a human design chart looks like. Okay. But this is just, each one goes a little deeper. So then you have an X-ray, same person, actually shows you even deeper, and that would be gene keys. So the gene keys goes in, but it goes into separate aspects. So if a doctor was looking at you, they would say, we're going to check your heart, and then we're going to check your mind and all that stuff. So that's more of what like the gene keys would do. Now, you will still get details through astrology and human design when we dive deeper into it, like we will in future episodes. Okay. Let's get to human design. So I want to talk about human design as it's one of the top three systems that I use. Human design is created from 4 ancient teachings and 4 modern sciences. So there's the Kabbalah, the I Ching, the chakra system, and astrology, along with biochemistry, physics, genetics, and quantum mechanics. So it's 8 systems together, and that's how you come up with this. The person that actually had a encounter to come up with all this information his name was Robert Krakauer, but he changed his name to Ra Aruhu. He is passed. He passed in 2011, but this is truly, and crazy accurate. I mean, crazy accurate. So one of the things I wanted to point out is anything on the black side is what you would see in your natal chart. So you remember the picture of you, a regular photograph. Mm-hmm. And what a lot of people don't know, but what you can see in human design is 3 months before you're born, your soul enters your body and it creates a secondary chart, which is your unconscious chart, or also called your design side. This is called your personality side, and this is called your design side. So you have both aspects. That's why you're looking at it like through an infrared type of vision rather than just a regular picture seeing what's on the outside.
Okay.
So
why does he call it the design side? Because you're when
It's
it's three
how you're
months?
designed. So
Okay.
remember last week we talked about the prenatal epoch?
Right.
So that's the astrological way of explaining the design side, but it's not something, as we talked about, that people talk about a lot at all. So it's
Right.
not easy. And when people are trying to, I can't tell you how many phone calls I got of people trying to find a way to pull up their chart for that natal epoch. You have to do something which I'll get into in the description to pull it up a little easier. But on human design, it's very easy. And you just pull it up and it gives you how you were designed before you were born, when your soul entered your body. It gives you all the things that you might not know about yourself because you don't know about any of the red side until you mature into it. Whereas the stuff on the black side, the personality side, you know all about it. You're very familiar with that part of you. That's
Because
why,
that's your personality.
that's everything
Okay.
that you know as you've been growing up, you know all this stuff. But if somebody says to you, so this person has a 24, which I'd have to get into all the explanation of that, but 24 is they're a very they're big an overthinker, right?
Hmm.
They overthink things, but because it's on the red side and not on the black side, people may notice it about them. People will notice it about them, but they won't notice it about themselves. They'll be like, I don't overthink things. I don't know what you're talking about. It's because it's not apparent to them until they grow into it. Once they grow into it, then they realize, oh yeah, you're right. I am an overthinker. But yeah, so this is a very strong system for that reason. One of the things I wanted to do is go over the basics. Okay.
Okay.
So the basics are most people who teach human design only teach your type, strategy, and authority. Human design is much deeper than that, much, much more than that. But I wanted to go over that because if you go into too much at one time, it's just overwhelming. So I want to start with the 5 types of people. Okay. I
Yeah.
want to start with what a type is. So a type is it tells you how your energy is meant to interact with the world. Okay. So a lot of us don't realize that especially when we're younger, we're not getting to where we want to be because we're using our energy in the wrong way, right? So let's say you've always felt like you should be a doctor or you should be in the medical field, and you push yourself really hard at people. I want to be part of this, I want to be part of that, because everybody's like, just do it, go for it, and all that. But if your energy is not made that way, you're pushing, but you're getting a lot of resistance. If you learn how your energy works, you can still go for what you want. You just have to approach it the way your energy allows other people to, drop their defenses. Does that make sense?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
it makes sense because you've taught me this, and I've gone through your readings, but when you understand, for me, like, understand, I don't know, it just, the way you describe it, to me has really, I mean, even having our retreat for that weekend, when going so deep in this and understanding. And I guess now that, because I'm a generator, now that I understand it and understanding my children, and it's almost like a prerequisite now in my life to know what human design a person is I'm dealing with. Like you've even sent to me if I was going to start a business.
Yes.
Like, that it's so powerful.
Absolutely, because if you can pull up your chart and you can pull up another person's chart, you can just read theirs and understand it. But if you pulled up a connection chart, which you can see where you'll have issues with another person. So if you were going to go into business with somebody and they were going to have a hard time with the way you're structured, it probably wouldn't be a very good idea to go into business unless you were very mature and they were very mature and you were on the same path. And a lot of times that's not the case. Everybody just likes each other and they go into business and then there's a problem. So
Right.
Yeah. It'll tell you where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are. So if you have a strength with money and the other person has a strength with money, but neither of you have a strength with structure, that's a problem, right?
Right.
And so you need to have a well-rounded scenario. And if you can find that out, it would be amazing. Another thing that I like about it is you can learn your children's charts, right? I did your kids' charts, and it
Yes.
makes such a difference in
Hmm.
how you interact. Why don't you tell me your thoughts? Because that's firsthand.
Yes. Well, I was ready to tell you that because it happened yesterday. Presley's a projector. And, I used to compare the girls like every morning, come on, let's be, happy, happy gratitude list. And Presley's always been like she's gone along with it because she's had her sister. But once her sister went to college, I was like, what's going on? And then for some reason, you came into our path and you told me she's a projector. And I said, oh my gosh, that poor thing. I've been forcing her to be like her sister. And if I knew that at, zero, that what a tool for a parent to understand that, everyone, that your children are born in this, with these different types and
Right? I
to
know.
understand what a projector is and watching her and letting her sleep or,
Right.
allowing that instead of looking at it as a negative
Yep.
because her sister's a manifesting generator and she's like the complete opposite.
Right.
But but it's
Absolutely right.
okay. And
It's
then
crazy. I
the
know.
other yesterday it came up and she did something and I said to Richard, he was getting his coffee, I said, oh, it's so nice to just know she's a projector.
I
Because I
love
don't,
it.
it didn't matter because I knew where she was like, what, why? Because it's not wrong, there's nothing wrong. But he was like, what? He said, it was
Yeah,
funny.
it's amazing. I feel the same way. My son is a generator, but he is his profile, which we'll get into another time, he's a 2-4, and that's a very introverted profile
Mm,
at a young age. When he gets older, he's going to be more extroverted because he has the 4 on the other side. And so it's very community based, right? But before I knew that, I was like, I had him tested for everything, the poor kid.
right,
I was like every ADHD or OCD, all this stuff. I'm like, he comes from me. I'm so extroverted. How is this not,
right,
And he's perfect the way he is. He
right.
is just doing it the way he came here to do it. And we keep trying to force our kids into something that we believe they should be. Do you know something else I learned recently? I don't know if I mentioned this on the last one. Usually, at least one of your children is usually opposite of you, and they pick
Oh,
you for that reason.
huh. I didn't know
Because you're
that.
supposed to teach each other,
Yeah.
right? So one of your kids could be opposite of your husband, and the other could be opposite of you. And so you could feel the tension in the different areas. And that is because they chose you for a reason, but they chose you because their makeup is so different than your makeup. Their
Yes.
strengths are your weaknesses, and vice versa. And so we expect, because we gave birth to these children, that they're going to be like us. And in
Right.
fact, they're usually the opposite.
Hmm.
So, you
Yeah,
have
very
somebody who's
cool.
really good in sports who ends up having a child who wants nothing to do with sports. And they think, what did I do wrong? How is this possible? It's because they're here to teach you that everything is not about that. And,
Yeah.
you're here to teach them, the ins and outs of sports, but you can't force it on them, right? It's
Right.
just crazy. I love it. I just love all of this stuff. It's
I
insane,
do too. And I feel like there needs to be some pre-parenting before you have a baby
right?
or like when you have the baby to teach parents this because, to me, like whenever we met you 2 years ago, so the girls, 2 years ago is when I started to have the light bulb go off to me, like taking the pressure off of her or, looking at it differently as you know, now that you say that they pick you, I mean, I see her and I see where we kind of go. It's a, it's not a fight, but it's like
Oh,
I can see where I'm looking at it but it helps me know that that's it because she's a projector,
Yeah,
you know? And
exactly.
so I've really learned to pull back and just sit there and watch instead of, being triggered or, all
Right?
those things because
Yeah.
that's who and she's teaching me, like what a gift.
I know. Isn't that amazing? It's just, to me, it makes parenting so much easier,
Yes.
because it's you get it. You didn't do anything wrong and they didn't do anything wrong. They're just doing
Right.
it a different way,
Right.
and it's a beautiful thing. I have a lot of my clients who, when somebody in their family has a baby, they ask me to run the chart and send and get a report so that the person
Oh, good.
can understand. So it's their baby book,
Oh, yeah.
understand the things that they may struggle with. Of course, you don't want to pigeonhole them. You don't.
Right.
But these are areas that, in the areas that are like, seem to be the most prevalent, if that comes up, that wouldn't be something that you'd want to let go by. You would want to say, this is something that's a big part of their life. So pay attention to how this unfolds. And that
Right.
helps people. So,
Right. Even like if you had a baby that was, we'll get into all the different types, but the rarest of all four, of all of the five of them is
mhm,
the reflector.
mhm,
Like, I think that would be so fascinating.
I
Have
know.
you met a baby that's a reflector?
Not a baby. I've met adults that have been reflectors. It's so rare. It's only 1% of the
Yeah,
world. So,
interesting. Okay, well, I'm
oh,
getting ahead of it. So let's get
okay.
into each type because, when you realize that, I mean, the man that created this system, I mean, I'd love to get into his brain, but when you realize that there's only five types
Yep.
and how he figures that out, but the percentages are crazy. So
Yep. So,
generator.
yeah. So there are 5 types, and I'll say them. So you have generator, manifesting generator, projector, manifestor, and reflector. Most people, when you see a list, they start with a manifestor because manifestors initiate, but I like to do it in order of the how much of the
The
population.
percentage.
Yeah, right. So generators are 37% of the population, right? And it's changing, just so you know. This is from the 80s and 90s. As we're moving on, more projectors and more manifestors are being born.
Huh.
So the numbers are shifting, but it used to be that 70% of the world was some type of a generator, either a generator or a manifesting generator,
Okay,
because
wait. So sorry, but why are the babies coming? Why is it changing?
so if you notice, because of things like AI and all this technology, we don't need as much heavy lifting, right? So generators are very,
Ah, that makes
yeah,
sense.
right. So in caveman days, we needed very strong people. We didn't need people who were
Huh.
intellectual. And so everybody was a generator because you had to lift and move and all this stuff. And as we grew and all of these shapes in here split and created more shapes, we got more senses. And so we became more intellectual, more social, and now we're moving into being more emotional, right? So in caveman days, there were only 5 of these.
Okay.
These are called centers.
Okay.
So we weren't very intellectual people. And as we moved on, many, many, like hundreds of years later, we split into two of those centers split, and we got 7 centers. And then in 1781, they split again. That was when Uranus was discovered. Um, and we became 9 centered people. And as of 2027, we're going to, they'll split again and we're going to have 11 centered people. And those are the kids born after 2027. There's nothing special, there's nothing crazy about it. This is literally just evolution. And the medical industry, instead of calling it, getting new centers, they call it chromosome 24 coming online again.
Hmm.
That's how they um, understand the new abilities, right? And so we're going to be much more we won't be emotionally triggered. We will be emotionally compassionate people, right?
Oh,
And so,
interesting.
yeah, it's pretty amazing actually. So the first type is a generator. And I wanted you to see this so that you knew what a generator was. So this is the head center. This is what we call the ajna, which is this is where the information comes in. This is where it is conceptualized and processed. This is your throat center. This is your G center, which is your identity center. This is your ego or your will center. It's also called your heart center. This is your splenic center or fear center. This is your sacral or life force center. This is your emotional center or also your solar plexus. And this is your root center, which is also your adrenaline. All of these centers correlate to different organs in the body. Okay. So the numbers inside of them are what we call gates in human design. And they correlate to personality traits or probabilities of what you're going to be like. So over here, 24 correlates to 24 here in the ajna. If the line is red, it's here on this side. If the line is black, it's here on this side. Now, everybody has all 64, but they don't have all 64 defined or consistent in their energy. We only have certain energies consistent. And if there is color in one of these centers or in these lines, that's where you have consistent energy. Okay. So there's a number, which is what we call the gate, and then there's a dot, and then there's another number. So there's 64 personality traits that can show up one of 6 different ways. So it's 1 through 6. It goes much deeper, but that's where we're going to stop right now.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I wanted to say that is this here being the sacral, this shows you that this person is a generator. So they're either a generator or a manifesting generator. If this is colored in, you're a generator. It's important to be a generator because generators are, they have the widest auric field and they are meant to affect more people than anybody else. And the reason is they have that steady life force energy. So somebody like me or your daughter, who's the projector, we don't have that sacral energy. So if we are not around people like you who are generators, we are exhausted because we don't have the life force energy. So we have to have your energy in order to keep us going. So we borrow your energy, right? But so the whole idea here is to see that this is what makes you a generator. The fact that you're a pure generator is because the throat is not connected with a colored line to any of the 4 motors. So the sacral is a motor, the ego is a motor, the emotional center or solar plexus is a motor, and the root center is a motor. If any of these, you see how this is connected here? If this here was colored all the way through, that would be connected to a motor. That would make this person a manifesting generator, not just a generator. So generators are what we call the master architects of the world. They are people who can get things done. They're very systematic. They get things done, A, B, C, D, E, and they go all the way to the end. And they usually don't make mistakes because they're very consistent. They create systems for themselves and they're accurate. They get things done. They're the foundation of us. Okay. No one else is like that. Generators are extremely important. Okay. They would be like the architects or the builders of all the construction because they would think things through. Otherwise, a manifestor creating a building would kind of probably fall apart. That wouldn't work very well.
And you're a manifestor, right?
I am a manifestor. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on to a manifesting generator. Manifesting generators they are 33% of the population. They do have a defined sacral, but you see here, their throat is connected to one of the motors. So it could be connected in a lot of different ways. This happens to be here. The difference between a manifesting generator and a generator is manifesting generators get things done like twice as fast. They skip steps, like they can do things faster than generators and still get it done right. However, they go so fast sometimes that they do skip steps that are important, and so they have to start all over again. So where a generator tends to not make as many mistakes as everyone else because they're more consistent, manifesting generators can multitask, but if they don't pay attention, they can have to start all over again, right?
Hmm.
So, and it's funny to watch a manifesting generator and a generator have a conversation because a generator tends to be very even paced, usually when they're talking and stuff and they're giving details. A manifesting generator is like, "Oh my gosh, hurry, get to the point. Why are you taking so long?" It's because their energy they have a little bit of a burst from the motors, right? And
Okay.
so, yeah, it's funny. It's
That's
actually
Paige
very
and
funny.
I. So I was trying to relate it to Paige and I because Paige is a manifesting generator.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And how she talks and how she handles things. That's interesting.
Yeah, she probably rolls her eyes at you sometimes when you go too deep into an
Oh, I'm
explanation.
sure. You think?
I know. My mother is a manifesting generator, and my husband, for all intents and purposes, is a generator. And when I see them two have a conversation, it is so funny because he tries to give all the details, and she's like, "Oh my God, just get to the damn point. Did
Just
you
get to
go
the
to the
point.
store or not?"
Yeah, that's Paige for sure. And I'm
It's like,
like, don't you want to know everything?
exactly.
It's so good. No, Mom,
Yeah.
just tell me what's the last line.
Right. That's
That's
exactly what a
funny.
manifesting generator is. Yeah.
Huh.
They're ready to go. So generators could have an open throat center, but manifesting generators will never have an open throat center. So they'll always it'll be defined because it has to be connected to a motor. Okay.
Okay.
Now, projectors, your daughter and my daughter, projectors do not have the sacral um, defined, and the throat is not connected to any of the motors. Okay. And so projectors are here to guide people. They are, because they don't have that life force energy, they are. They borrow energy from generators and manifesting generators, or depending on where the planets are, they may, borrow the energy at that point. But once they take in someone else's energy, once that energy separates, they're exhausted. Okay.
Right.
And that's why people crash. So these centers, if they're not colored in, anything that's white, whether it's all white or it has little circles that are colored in, that's called undefined or open. If it's totally white, it's open. That's where we take in other people's energy and amplify it out twice as much. So when Presley is near you, she takes in your energy and she amplifies it out twice as much. So she may be really excited about doing something, and then when too much time has gone on, because she's not supposed to have that energy in her consistently, she'll get irritated and then want to separate from everybody and go lay down and go rest. And that's
Yes.
how that's what she's supposed to do. She's supposed to purge everybody else's energy. Otherwise, you will start getting on her nerves.
Right. Oh, are you kidding? That is like to a T.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's it's funny because Richard doesn't understand human design or, anything. And when she does certain things, and I understand that, and like she'll be in her room a lot doing her schoolwork or doing stuff, and he's like, "You need to get down and be with us." And And I'm thinking, well, no, she has been, but I think she needs to go have some retreat to herself, right?
Absolutely.
But he
Absolutely.
looks at it as negative, and I was trying to explain it to him the other day. We had that same conversation, was like she needs to get out of her room. And I said, well, sometimes when she's with us, like you said, like that energy, it's a lot for her,
Yep. It's
right?
overwhelming. Yeah,
Yeah,
and it exhausts her. And so she instinctively knows, separate yourself because you guys don't feel that,
right,
right? So because you have that consistent energy there, only the person that doesn't have the consistent energy there feels that. So if he forced her to come and sit with you guys, it would cause her to be agitated, and then they would fight, and he would be like, what is wrong with her? Why is
right.
she acting like this?
Totally.
Right? And it's not, she actually feels so much tension and frustration. She thinks he's coming at her twice as hard as he really is. He's just saying, I want you to spend time with the family. And she's saying in her head, she's like, he's being so pushy. Why is he trying to always boss me around? And that's just, we have to understand that somebody knows their energy better. If they need to walk away, let them walk away. Anytime you get frustrated, they used to say separate from people, but they didn't realize what the reason was. It's the energy. If you ever get so frustrated with somebody, walk away at least 16 feet and not in
Hmm.
any direction, be near anybody for 16 feet for about 15 minutes. You're purging all the energy that was overloaded. And then you can re-engage and you act like nothing bothers you. I
Hmm.
mean, because it's just literally coming back together from the start again. People, if they understood that, regardless of their type, they would definitely avoid probably 80% of the fights that they have for no
Interesting.
reason.
What about like concerts and things that are really like dense, people close to you? Is that something a projector wouldn't like?
Yes. So a projector would be very excited when they first got there, but by the end of toward the end, after several hours, they would start getting irritated and they may want to leave earlier than maybe a generator or a manifesting generator because they're feeling tired, and then the extra energy that they're getting from all these other people is just irritating them and they don't know why. So they're just like, I've had enough. I need to go.
Hmm.
If they feel that way, then they need to respect that. And the other person that's with them, if anybody's with them, needs to respect that so that they can go. If you know that about yourself, then either you want to go to the concert later, you don't want to go ahead of time and, party
Oh,
in the
okay.
parking lot because you'll get irritated halfway through, you know,
Right.
or you know, you might want to do smaller events, things like that. So it's
Yeah.
it's definitely a thing. You can also tell there's a way to, I use genetic matrix. There's a lot of different things, but you can see where the transits are. And if there is a planet transiting the area that would cause this person to have their sacral defined, that would be a good time for them to go to a concert because they wouldn't be open there during that time. It would be like almost like looking at the weather, right? This is a very good time for me to go to this concert as opposed to, oh my gosh, I'm going to get halfway through and I'm going to be exhausted. I need a pillow and a blanket. I'll meet you in the car. I
Right.
mean, that's really what it's like. But if you
Oh,
have that energy from the planets, you're actually like you have that energy already there. She would be blocking anybody else's energy coming in and going out. So when a transit happens, it's a much easier. That's why they're like, well, sometimes I've got all this energy, and then other times I just can't do it at all. And that's what it is. It just depends on where you're getting the energy
hmm.
from.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yep.
So a manifester. So that's me. This is my chart. So manifestors do not have, we are 9% of the population. Oh, I'm sorry. Projectors are 20% of the population. Manifestors are 9%. We're here to initiate. Okay. And we're here to start things, but our energy is really, you either love us or you hate us. Okay. It's not really something that you get along with everybody. Manifestors can be, our energy comes across very aggressive, especially when we're younger. So parents tend to think if they have a manifestor child, they think the child's out of control, even if they're not. It's just the way their energy feels, right? And
Hmm.
so a manifestor child can get in trouble for things a lot smaller than a generator, a projector, a manifesting generator, because um, their energy seems like they're trying to push the adult's buttons.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Oh,
So we have what's called a repelling aura. And our aura is the smallest aura, which is, it literally pushes against other people because everybody tends to gravitate toward a manifester. So manifestors are not here to wait for someone else to start something. We're supposed to bring new things into the world, but again, we don't have that sacral energy. So we bring new things into the world, but then we need a nap, right? So we literally are here to work in shorter spurts. So where you could work on something. I mean, when you put that whole thing together when we did the retreat, I mean, it was just amazing. It was just like, it was like effortless. And I, speak for a couple hours and I'm just like drooling or sitting in the corner, rocking like, oh my God. I got sick for 4 weeks, after
right.
that. It's our energy is, we're taking it all in. Everything's great at the moment, but if we don't rest afterward, we won't be able to do anything, like I just couldn't do this every day, all day. So I have to work on projects and then do it once a week, or work on, that's why YouTube is really good from somebody like me, because I can um, work on it when I feel the energy to do it, and then post, when I'm not feeling up to it, I can post other segments.
Right.
It allows me to do that. If I had to be in front of people every day, all day, like a regular trainer, I wouldn't make it. I would get sick too often. Like I was in
Oh,
sales, outside sales, and I would get sick a lot because I would travel, and I just thought it was from traveling because this was a long time ago. But I would come, everybody else come back, everybody be rejuvenated, my eyes would be down. I would be
huh.
so tired. Everybody like, what? Didn't you have a good time? I'm like, yeah, but it's a lot, but it's just because I'm a manifester. So I'm more so here to create frameworks and things like that, like bring new things in. So me explaining this type of stuff, that's bringing something new in. So the way I explain it is a different angle. So it's
Hmm.
not a brand new system, but it explains it in more detail. Manifestors also, if they have a defined head center, get pulses of information from out of nowhere. So, like, we know something, we don't know how we know it, we just know that it's true, but we don't know how to explain it to other people. So, we can explain what it is. I just couldn't explain to you how I know what
Right.
I know, right?
Do you think that's partly why your psychic abilities and your mediumship are so like
Yeah,
ignited?
probably so. Yeah, because I do have an open, I don't have, I have no common sense. That is the God's honest truth, because I have all this definition here. Not one of these is open, and that really is a problem. I really didn't realize what a problem it was until I got older and learned this stuff. But I have no common sense whatsoever. I have to be taught things in
Hmm.
order to know them, because if you just try to hint at me with things, it'll just go right over my head. I'll be like, I have no, I did not know that
Oh,
you were
and
trying
yes.
to get me to go to
Okay.
dinner with you. I have
Like
no
being
idea.
like someone saying, she's just not street smart,
Right. Yeah,
right?
I mean, I trust everybody. Everybody's so wonderful, and
Right.
my mother's 78 years old, and she's like, that person is a scam artist, and I'm like, no.
Right.
But the only way I would know is if I get a pulse of information, right? And so intuitively, I might know something is off, but mentally, I will never, never.
Huh.
Yeah. So one of the things that you have to know is no matter what type you are, your decisions for yourself always come from the neck down. If you get up in your head and you start trying to think through something, you will always come out with the wrong answer. It is,
Mm.
you are here to use your head for other people, to help other people, to help in anything. Logic is for others, but it is not for you to make decisions for yourself. Anybody who, if you're thinking about doing something, you have, we'll get to that with authorities, but you have to follow your own authority as to how to make your decisions. Otherwise, once you get up in your head, you're going to make the wrong decision. A lot of people say, I give such great advice to other people, but when I try to use it for myself, it always goes wrong. And that's exactly
Hmm.
right. That's
Hmm.
exactly how that works. Because you're not supposed to use your head for you. You're supposed to use your body for you. And you will get a sensation. You know how everybody says, um, oh, I felt the red flag. I knew there was a red flag, but I ignored it. Well, red flag is your intuition,
Right. Or a
right?
gut feeling that,
Right. That is
yeah,
your, and that's your body's way of telling you something is right or wrong. If it feels right, then it is right. If it feels wrong, then you shouldn't be doing it. But you get up in your head and you start, well, it would be for the best of the family and da da da. A few weeks later, you find out you were right. You shouldn't
right.
have done
Like
it
when
because
you're in your head, you're dead. I always have heard like,
wow, yeah, that's a good one. I love that.
yeah,
I never
in
heard
your
that
head.
before. Absolutely.
But when you realize, like even at the beginning of our these segments that we started, when we started talking about intuition, and I mean, it is trusting that and having that be your guide, and understanding that the difference between being in your head versus from your neck down. That's, that even that description of you explaining it that way helps people understand. Like when you're in your head and you're trying to make that decision, acknowledge and realizing that, and then thinking, okay, what is below my neck telling me, you
Yeah, what
know?
does it feel like, right?
Right,
How does it feel? If you feel nervous or something, do not go in your head and try to make it okay. You're nervous for a reason, right?
right,
And when I say nervous, I don't mean like you know the difference between being nervous about trying out for a play as opposed to being nervous working with somebody. Like if you were going to work with somebody who was going to help you with a play and you felt very uneasy about the person, right? That's what you listen to, right?
right.
If you're nervous about getting up on stage, that's normal. I mean, you can tell the difference, right? When that
Yeah,
uneasy feeling comes, that's something you really need to pay attention to and not just be like, oh, well, he's a teacher, so he's safe. That's if you're not feeling that, it is not what
mhm,
you should be doing,
right.
you know? So
I
anyway,
wonder why
also,
manifestors are so low in the percentage. Like that,
yeah, because
that's a low
manifestors,
number.
yeah, it is. It's because you don't want a lot of us out there. We're supposed to start things, but then like I said, we don't have the energy to get it to the end. So in order for me to run my business effectively, I have to be engaging with generators. I have to. Otherwise, I wouldn't get a lot done. I would have a lot of ideas, but no follow through.
Okay.
So we have to have a lot of builders right now, which are generators. So that's why there's more of them than anything, because they're the most important. So, if you have a whole bunch of ideas out there and nobody's here with the energy to do it, it is not going to help anybody, right?
Right.
So, yes, but you still, with a manifester, you have to have, and again, this one is connected exactly the same way as the other one, but it can be connected to a motor this way or any other way, but this is connected here to the emotional center with the throat. So that's important, right?
Okay.
So I'm going to move on now to the reflector. That's the last one. So that's what a reflector looks like. I don't know. Have you ever seen one?
No,
Okay.
I
So
don't
this
think, I mean, I've never met one that knew they were one, so that's why it's so fascinating.
it is to me it is too. So they're very sensitive. One of the things that I found really amazing is that um, I used to think people were wishy-washy if they always acted different with different people. You know
Uh-huh.
how right? I hang out with them and they're very extroverted. They hang out with somebody who's quiet, they're quiet, and I'm just like, they don't even know who they are. They're a reflector.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay.
They're here to mirror who they're with.
Right.
Yep. And so
Huh.
where they are, their environment is very important because they take in everybody's energy, right? So they're here, they can tell you if something is safe quicker than any other type,
Hmm.
right? So their intuition is ridiculous because they feel everything. But if they're not careful, they can make quick decisions. Because remember now, they're open everywhere or they're undefined everywhere. If they think your thoughts, because they're able to take in your thoughts, they may think it's their own thought because they're not thinking that they're taking in other people's thoughts. If they are feeling your feelings because their emotional center is undefined, or they're feeling your fears because their splenic center is totally open, they can get tossed around a lot, right? And that is very challenging. So they're not sure of what's their feelings and what's someone else's feelings.
What
What
would their
they
job, what would they be good at as far
so
as a career or something?
they're really good at telling you if systems work. Okay, so they can tell you what's missing, right? Or if something is going to, they can feel if something, like if I told them my whole, my business plan as we were going through it, they can sense what's going to work and what's not going to work, right? They just have this sense. They can even sense, I've been told they can sense if they walk into a specific structure, if the structure's not safe, they can feel that,
Oh, wow.
right? I mean, they're very sensitive, right?
Like they're not concert going people.
Yeah, I would find that really challenging.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that would be, I mean, I do know one of them who she's a concert goer, but she's a napper too. So, I mean, so it just
Okay.
depends. It depends on the concert, I would say. Um, the challenge for them is that they don't know themselves unless they're by themselves. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
okay. Huh. Who would they be best partnered with? Like as, if they were going to be in a relationship?
So it really depends, but more than likely they would do better with it. Projectors are pretty safe across the board with everybody, projectors.
Oh, okay.
They may do well with manifestors, but it really depends because if they're taking in manifestors are very assertive, and if they're taking in that assertive energy, they're amplifying it out, right? So they're going to be even more assertive and not know why, right? And so it depends on um, really the maturity of each person, but more than likely, I would say they do very well with projectors. Projectors are really, they tend to be easy to get along with across the board.
Huh. When you were saying earlier that the souls choose their parents to, even in human design of learning, what would be the reflector? Like if the baby came in and to pick the parents, what would be the most challenging for the reflector? What would be the biggest lesson? Who would they, as a
Probably,
mom?
I would see them being, I mean, it could be anything, but I would say a manifesting generator
Oh, okay.
because they would take in, I mean, they're kind of the opposite of everybody, to be honest, but like a manifesting generator is so on all the time, very energetic and getting things done and really doesn't need anybody else. So
Mm-hmm.
a reflector would be taking that in and they would be amplifying that. So as assertive as a manifesting generator would be, a reflector would take that on and be twice as much, but then crash halfway through.
Okay.
So that would kind of be teaching them, but also they would be teaching the manifesting generator how to um, how annoying it can be to be on everybody like that, right? Because they're going to be twice as much as they are. And a manifesting generator tends to be twice as energetic as the average person, right? So that's them mirroring them.
Okay, interesting. It's so funny because we're in pageant season right now. And when you say that about Paige, and I, since both girls do pageants, and it requires a lot of practice. And when it gets closer and closer, it's like we're on, it's nonstop. But when I'm with Paige at a pageant, like when we're leading up to the competition, she's like getting up at 6 and she's like, let's go to the hallway and get our shoes on and practice, Mom. Da da da. With Presley, oh, that's okay, Mom. I'll sleep a little longer. And I'm like, Presley, let's go. You've got, but it's so funny because it's so like that. And I
Mhm.
used to get so irritated. Presley, like, do you not want it? Come on. Paige gets up at 6 to go into the call into the stage and practice. You don't even care?
Oh yeah. And it's funny because I was born into it. My mother is a manifesting generator. Excuse me. My father was a generator and my sister's a generator. So they were all focused on what they wanted. My mom was like getting everything done, And there I was in my own little world, just dancing in the corner,
Oh,
making new
funny.
games and stuff. Oh, I used to irritate my father unmercifully.
Oh,
Yeah,
funny.
it's and my sister too, she just looked at me, she's like, I just don't understand you. And I'm like, I don't either. I don't understand me. I don't know why I'm like this, but it's the way it is, and you're here to learn. So,
Right.
yeah.
But even like the girls with when they were in rowing, and Presley joined when Paige was like, because they're 3 years in grade, difference. Watching Paige do rowing and how she was so focused and so like, I'm going to be the best. And Presley's like, oh, I don't care. Like, I don't care what boat I'm in. This really isn't that great. But yeah, it's so cool to know that instead of comparing.
hmm Yeah,
Yeah,
that's exactly right. And they're being exactly who they're supposed to be.
right.
Yeah, it's
How could you not
fun.
be,
It is
right?
fun to
Yeah,
watch
right,
once you get it. Otherwise you're like, Nothing. If you don't do what the other one's doing, you're never going to get anywhere, and it's
right.
not true. It's just
No.
not. And that's just,
Uh-uh.
it's amazing to feel and to understand. So, yeah,
And
absolutely.
Piper for you is the projector, right?
Yes, Piper is the
Okay.
projector. Yeah, she wears herself out, excuse me, because she thinks, well, she acts as a manifesting generator, but she has to learn how to slow down,
Right.
and not take so much on herself
And not drive fast.
and not drive. Yes, God help us all. Yeah,
Uh,
my little speed demon.
funny.
So, but yeah, but my oldest, Jada, is she's a generator and she is a 3-5 profile, and she's very excuse me, she's very much like you, she has her systems.
Right.
And so when her sister does something that, she doesn't agree with, she's like, what's wrong with her?
Right.
And I'm like, nothing's wrong with her. It's just she does things differently. She has to learn. And she's
Right.
just like, no, you have to just do it this way. And I'm like, yeah, you're gonna have a hard time.
Yep.
So
Who did she marry? Who does Jada's husband? What is he?
he is a generator as well.
Okay.
Yeah, he's such a great guy. They work very well together. I mean,
Huh.
very, very well together. She takes him out of his shell and he calms her down. So
Huh.
it's nice. It's a perfect, yeah. I'm very blessed.
Generator marriage.
It's amazing.
Huh.
The truth will come when they have children.
Right.
You know, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That'll be fun. Okay. So I think that might be it for my little um, pictures. Let me stop the share. Okay. So I wanted to talk about strategies. Strategies are easy. There's only there's only 4 strategies, but the 5th strategy is manifesting generators have the generator strategy and the manifestor strategy. So that's what makes it the 5th one. So generators, what a strategy is how you're supposed to um, uh, it is how you're supposed to interact, but it's also it's part of how you're making decisions, right? Or how you get people to work with you without resistance. Okay. So generators are here to respond. So generators are they're able to work, but they're not supposed to just do any work. They're supposed to do work that lights them up. Okay.
Right.
Only things that excite them. So when what generators are really supposed to do is sit back and wait for things to come to them and then say, oh wow, that seems like fun,
Mhm.
let's do it, kind of like when I came to you and asked you if you do the YouTube with me, and you're like, oh, that sounds like fun, let's do it. That would be responding, right? It's
Okay.
if you went out and well, you did start your own podcast, but more than likely you felt like it was needed, right? By
Right.
watching other people and saying, if people just knew about this kind of stuff, it would be great. That's you responding to
Okay.
something. Okay.
Yeah,
So
I get that.
yeah, it's still that. Like me, I can just come up with something. So here's an example I always use. Steve Jobs was a generator. If I came up with a phone out of nowhere, like I just said, I'm gonna just create this phone that does all these cool things, I would get a lot of pull from that. Like people would want it because I'm a manifestor. But Steve Jobs was a generator. But because he noticed that everybody was struggling with all these devices, they had to have their pager and their cell phone and their,
Hmm.
BlackBerry. God, I'm aging myself.
Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
Like
but
memories.
right, all that stuff at the same time. So he said, oh, I'm going to solve this problem. That's what a generator does. They
Okay.
respond to something. Okay.
Got it.
If he was a manifestor and he did that, he wouldn't have been as successful. That's
Huh.
how that works. Because people wouldn't have understood why he was doing it. They would push back. It just manifestors would, generators would get pushed back on. Just like me, if I sit back and wait to respond to things, people
Hmm.
like look at me weird, like, I don't understand why are you talking to me about fixing this problem? It's because I'm supposed to initiate things. I'm not supposed to respond to things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting.
hmm
And
Yeah.
the
So,
projectors wait for the invitation, right? So
so
they're
yeah, that's interesting. So that's the hardest one in my opinion. Well, reflectors are kind of, but Piper used to have this thing where I would tell her, you have to wait for the invitation. You can't just walk up to somebody, because she used to struggle with that with her sorority in the beginning. And she would go in and say, I know the answer to a lot of the stuff that they're asking. And she goes, but when I go in there, they're just like, look at me like I don't belong. Like, why are
right.
you here? And so I
Huh.
said, when you hear that, go in and say, oh, I have an idea that would probably work. Let me know if you're interested, and then walk away. I said, they're going to say, of course we're interested. That's your invitation.
Right.
Literally, that one little conversation diffuses the energy. Otherwise, you're pushing at people and they don't even know why they're pushing back. It's just an
Hmm.
energetic um, uh, pocket, I guess, right? And so once you give them the opportunity to ask you, it diffuses everything. It just drops it. So that's the way people can get through that as a projector, as opposed to if you walk over and say, "Oh no, this is how you have to do it," they're going to be like, "Get away," right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's how you do it. Or
I feel like did Piper struggle like in high school? She reminds me of being super social.
she's
Did
extremely social. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, and she did initially. She struggled with, yeah, people like pushing back because she was, like she was a cheerleader. She did, sports. She did all sorts of stuff. She was in track. She was very, very much a go-getter, but she would feel like everybody was her friend, but in the back, they'd be talking about her and stuff. It's because her energy wasn't being received correctly, right?
Mm.
So, she would just show up and be like, "Yeah, I mean, she's really pretty and she's skinny and she's vibrant and, especially with girls because boys were always like, oh, here she comes, and then the girls would be like, we don't want you on our team,
Right.
stuff like
Right.
that. So, yeah, no, but, yeah, so she had to come to a point where she was happy with herself and she didn't care about what other people said. But once I learned how to do all of this, she started to recognize how that works and she started
Mm-hmm.
testing it. She's a learner, right? She's somebody, so you, me, and Piper are all 1-3s.
Okay.
We want to investigate and then we want to try it out for ourselves. And so whenever I talk to my other kids, they shut me off, you know. But with Piper, she's always like, okay, so if I did this, then she
Mm.
goes and tries it, right? And
Right.
so
Oh,
it's
cute.
very, very helpful. Yeah,
Huh.
it's very helpful. She's always open-minded, always. But yeah, the reflector is the hardest one because if it's an important decision, they say you should wait a whole moon cycle. That's 28 days, right? So if you're going to change jobs, move, relocate, you would get married, you would want to wait 28 days to feel what the moon cycle felt like because you're affected by the moon drastically,
Wow.
right?
So if they
But
got someone proposed, it gets on its knee, will
I
you
know.
marry me? Well, can you
Give me
wait for the
28
next?
days. Yeah, you would definitely want, if you were a reflector, you would want to think about that before the person, right?
Huh.
So you would think about like,
Interesting.
do I really want to be in this relationship with this person? Can I see myself marrying them? And you would want to ponder that for the whole month. And if more often you were yes than no, that would be your sign. If it was more often than no, no. And it would
Hmm.
have to be predominantly yes for you to say yes. But that's how a reflector knows. Otherwise, a reflector is taking in the other person's energy. So the other person's excited, they're in love. So you're feeling that. And immediately you're going to be like, yes. And then later you might be like, oh no.
Right.
So, because we do make those mistakes. I'm sorry.
Right.
Um, so yeah, so those are the strategies. Manifesting generators need to um, wait like a manifestor, like inform. So one of the things that I have to do is I have to inform before I initiate. I have to tell people. So like I told you with my family, I have to tell them I'm going to do something before I do it. I don't have to ask permission, but otherwise they start to get into a fight with me about it, even if it has nothing to do with them. It's
Right.
because they feel like they don't even know why, they just get angry. So if I say, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to start working out at the gym, I'm not looking for their permission. But if I don't say it, they might be like, well, why don't you tell me that? I don't understand. Why you keep it secret? And they don't understand why they feel that way. It's just the energy, right?
Huh.
Manifesting generators have to do that. They have to inform, but then they need to respond, right? So actually, I believe it's the other way around. So they have to respond first. So they have to feel the need to want to respond to something. Then they inform the people that they're around and then they initiate it. It's crazy. Manifesting
Huh.
generators. Yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky, but you do need to make sure that you want to respond before you do anything. You have to make sure that this is what lights you up. You're not doing it because somebody else is making you do it. Because if you go against your energy in any of these areas, you'll get sick, right? Because your body's meant to work one way. That's why it's easy if you're moving in the direction that your energy is moving, right? Um, and then we have authorities. So, authority is how you make your best decisions.
Okay.
And it's important. Most people have an emotional authority. Well, I shouldn't say it. Half of the world has an emotional authority. And then the other half is split up into 6 other authorities.
Oh, okay.
So most people do have an emotional authority. And what that means is their emotional center is defined. And that's the trickiest one. Well, I say that because I'm an emotional authority. I think you are as well. Are you?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so.
So
Yes.
when we're in a good mood, we say yes to things that we later on, 20 minutes later, regret saying yes to because we're
Yep.
on an emotional high. And then when we are not, like you can do it either way. If someone asks you, you want to go out to lunch and you're in a bad mood, you'll say no. And then 20 minutes later, you'll be like, I wish I would have said yes. I could have used, a break.
Right.
So it's called an emotional wave. And we're meant to have highs and lows, and high highs and low lows depending on which areas are defined in your from your emotional center. But you are meant always meant to go up and down, but you have to wait until things settle in order for you to make a good decision. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in the middle of hanging out with your girlfriends and laughing and stuff, don't make any commitments because you're going to say yes to a lot of things that you're going to regret later. And what
Right.
happens is we feel obligated to do it because we
Yes,
said yes, right? But then we get sick from that because we're
I
not
believe
supposed
that.
to do it.
Right.
You're literally you get exhausted or you get, weaker or something. You need to and if you go and say no, I can't do it, I'm sorry, you start feeling guilty and then that affects your stomach, right? So
Right.
that's why people with an emotional authority need to wait until their emotions settle out, and then just 15-20 minutes. If someone asks you, you want to go to this place for lunch, don't even answer that right away. Just say, I'll tell you in a few minutes. And then you wait the 15 minutes and then you think, because a lot of times I'll say, I do this all the time, yeah, let's go. And then it's a seafood restaurant and I hate seafood. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what? I'm like, do they have chicken? I mean, it's just, we do it to ourselves. Um, Now, then there's from the emotional authority, then you have the sacral authority, and that means that your emotional center is white, but the sacral center is colored in. That to me, that's yours. So I mean, like you have an emotional authority, but you also have a defined sacral. So you have to go with the emotional part first. You wait until it settles. But you have once you wait until that settles, if somebody asked you, right? And right then and there, you were like, yes, but you didn't say yes. You later on, you can ask somebody to ask you again, somebody that you trust, do you want to do this? And your body will say, uh-huh, or uh-uh. Your
Mm-hmm.
body, you actually hear it in your stomach, in your gut. And
Yep.
I don't have any idea what that sounds like. But,
Yeah.
that's what people say. They're like, oh, listen to your gut, listen to your gut. I don't have a defined gut. So I don't
Right.
know what that feels like, right? So I have to look for something else. Now, with that, a um, a sacral authority, again, you can always wait if you're not sure and then have somebody ask you. You can even ask yourself the question, but having somebody else ask you, it gives you the opportunity to feel it as it's coming
Right.
at you. Um, with the splenic authority, which is the next one, you don't have that. The splenic authority is it means you have a white undefined emotional center and an undefined sacral center, but you're defined in the splenic center. That is your intuition. So when you walk into a room, if you have really strong intuition, you'll feel if the room is safe or not, right? You might walk into a restaurant and just be like, oh, no, 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 I don't want to eat here. You don't even know why. You just get
Hmm.
this feeling like this is not the right place. That is a one hit. You don't get it again. If you overthink and start saying, well, everybody else ate here, blah, 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 more
Oh,
than likely you're going to get sick, right?
okay.
Something's not going to sit right with you because your body is saying something's not right here for you, right?
Right.
But you can't go back and ask it like you can with the sacral, right?
Okay.
So it's a one hit. If you don't pay attention to when that happens, that's going to be one of those, oh, that I just ignored that red flag.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So if
Huh.
you don't have any of those, if those are all white, then you go to the ego authority. Okay.
Okay.
So an ego authority is all it's very it's very much about your will. What do you want to happen, right? How is this going to affect you? It is very ego based. You can usually tell who has an ego authority. Um, People tend to be called maybe egotistical
Mm-hmm.
when they have an ego authority, and it doesn't mean that that's just how they make their decisions, right? So it seems like they're more ego based because their decisions have to come from that, because that's the
Interesting.
way they make their decisions, right?
Hmm.
That doesn't mean they have to be a jerk, right? They just
Right.
have to go with their ego to make the decision. Then there's the uh, self projected authority. And that is the identity center, which is the G center, the diamond in the middle. That
Okay.
is only a projector has that. It's a self-projected projector. And what that means is they have to project their voice onto someone in order for it to bounce back to them to hear. So they need a sounding board.
Oh, huh.
Okay. So it's not that the other person makes the decision for them, but again, it has to be someone they trust in order for it to come back. Otherwise, it can come back with like false negatives, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
And then you have the mental. Um, I believe you can only be a mental projector or a mental manifestor. So that would mean everything is white below the neck and the head and the ajna are defined.
Okay.
And that means that that person they're the only ones that make decisions from the neck up, but they too need to speak it to someone so that they can hear it come back and make a mental decision that way.
Hmm.
They have to speak it out. So um, so if I were to just speak out to people, right, and not listen to my emotional authority, I'm going to make all the wrong decisions because I'm using something that is not
Hmm.
made for me. Okay. So you have to understand what your authority is so that you can start to work with it, right? Once I heard what an emotional authority was, I busted out laughing because I was like, that's exactly what I do. I say yes to everything. I mean, I'm going to change somebody's tire. I'm going to mow somebody's lawn. I'm going to do all sorts of stuff. And like 20 minutes later, I'm just like, I am not going to do that. I don't know
Oh,
what my
funny.
problem is. So, yeah, you have to get that under control. But once you understand it, you understand why you do it. You don't feel like a flake because you do feel like a flake if
Yes.
you just say
Right.
yes to everything and hate it. And you and I, we're like, if I said yes to it, I'm committed.
I
I'm
know,
going
right?
to do it, right? Yeah.
We're
And
people of our word. Yep.
yes, right. That's the
Yeah. I'm like, oh my goodness.
why would I say that?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So those are the top three. Now, what I want to do in the next few episodes, which we're going to go back to Gene Keys next, but in the next few human design episodes, we'll go deeper. I want to talk about the profile, the incarnation cross, and then the centers themselves. I'm going to probably first dissect dissect the body graph. So, because you really can't explain a lot of things without explaining what the little boxes are, what the numbers are,
Right.
what they stand for. So, that's what we'll do the next
Oh,
time.
good.
And then after that, we'll move on because people will understand that better. I can explain the types, the authority, and the strategy without a lot of pictures or explanation, but you saw how I started to go into the 24 and then I had to explain a little
Right.
deeper before then. So I really like how deep this system goes and how accurate it is. So I want people to understand past the first three things. And I don't care who says what, they say all you need is those three. All you need is those three to function, but you need to understand more to really get yourself. So,
Right.
right. I mean, because you and I've done yours in on
Right.
different levels. It's just,
Well, even at the retreat, that really helped. I mean, I have my notes from the retreat sitting right here. And yeah, I mean, the levels that we went to that weekend definitely helped me understand better.
right. And that's what I want to do. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that is what I have for this week. I'm
I
sorry.
loved.
I didn't let you talk very much. I'm sorry.
No, we did. It was so fun. I loved it. Just like I'm learning it's just so good for me to even sit here and listen to you and ask the questions.
Yeah, it was good. I appreciate your time. You're the best with this. I love that we get to do this together because I get
I
to
do
see you
too.
more
I
often.
look forward to it.
Good. All right.
Yes.
Well, that's all I got.
All right. Until next time,
Until next time.
subscribe and
You
send
always
it to
forget
your friends. Huh?
that. Yeah, share. I always forget that part. Share, subscribe, and like.
And like. And I saw that you posted something on Facebook, so that'll be
Yeah, I don't
right.
know what I'm doing. I'm all over social media. I have no idea. I need a social media expert. I'm
Oh,
all over the
not
place.
me. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, it's just, I think the journey that you're doing on these episodes that we're taking, and it's like kind of picking up the breadcrumbs of like understanding all these different little modalities that you know so well, like from like the back of your hand, and doing it the way you're doing it and piecing it together and understanding who we really are is so beneficial to everyone.
Thank you.